And welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema, the #1 podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your Lovelorn host, Sean.
I'm your drunkard host, Daniel.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España, no hablo español. This week, we hope you watch along with us for Casablanca 1942.
Plane to Lisbon. Would like to be on it.
Why? What's in Lisbon?
Good clipper to America.
You know what this is? Something that even you have never seen.
Round up the usual suspects.
And search them for stolen documents.
May you see your papers?
Do something, you must help me!
I'd stick my neck out for nobody.
There is a man arrived in Casablanca on his way to America. Victor Laszlo.
Laszlo? The Nazis have been chasing him all over Europe.
Laszlo must never reach America. He stays in Casablanca.
I'm a saloon keeper. The problems of the world are not in my department. Why did you come back? To tell me why you ran out on me at the railway station?
If you only knew the truth.
I wouldn't believe you no matter what you told me.
You are our last hope. If you don't help us, Victor Laszlo will die.
Of all the gin joints and all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
In Casablanca, human life is cheap.
Play it once, Sam.
You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss.
Available on HBO, Amazon, and Blu-ray. Based on the stage play called...
Everybody Comes to Rick's.
Hey, he got it. Thank God they changed that name, because that sounds like a sitcom.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Sometimes you wanna go where
Everybody Comes to Rick's.
and they're always glad you came.
Everybody come to Rick's.
Wait, that's
Yeah.
actually it?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Directed by Michael Curtis and written by Julius Epstein, Philip Epstein, and Howard Koch. Starring Humphrey Bogart as Rick Blaine, Ingrid Bergman as Ilsa Lund, Paul Henreid as Victor Laszlo, Claude Rains as Captain Louis Renault, Conrad Veidt as Heinrich Strasser, Dooley Wilson as Sam, and Peter Lorre as Ugart. Rick Blaine is an apathetic, pragmatic, stoic, sexy businessman. He owns a joint called Rick's Café Americain, based in Casablanca. People trying to flee the war are forced through this choke point of a city, dealing with thieves, corrupt officials, and the ever-looming threat of Hitler's SS. Everything was going swimmingly for Rick when on one fateful evening, a couple of exit visas and a bitter old love fall into his lap. Will his young, revolutionary heart beat again, or is it dead and buried by true love's kiss? What do you guys think?
That was great. And I just wanted to start by saying I didn't know Casablanca was a real place.
I assumed it was. I didn't know for sure.
I really didn't think so until I looked it up. So I learned it just
Morocco.
like yesterday. Yeah. Apparently it's the largest city in Morocco.
That's right.
Located in the central western part of the country, bordering the Atlantic Ocean.
Isn't it like a gambling hub now?
Apparently, it's one of the most important cities in Africa, both economically and demographically.
So a
Speaking for
gambling
trade, I mean, I assume they do have gambling as well.
No, but it's a port, so yeah, it's got to be important for the commerce.
Yeah,
Sure. Going back to the movie, though.
that's
Is
important.
that's what you loved about it, the port town?
No, I was just adding that as an extra, extra little tidbit of knowledge. I just didn't know that about the movie. I thought it was just a fake town, essentially.
Right.
Created for the film, but
I mean, usually when you're dealing with World War II historical epics, they're gonna try. It's offensive to make it not real, make up stuff.
True.
That's why I guess I kind of assumed it was.
Right.
I love the film, and actually bouncing off that point Alejandro just made, this film was made in the midst of World War II.
Right.
I'm hard pressed to think of any war movies that are set like in the midst of it. There are maybe like a few Iraq War movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say modern
Afghanistan
wars
War.
that probably happens more often.
Yeah. But for like World War II, I was kind of shocked to see that it's made like in the midst of it. It almost felt like a little propagandish. Despite that, it's still like I think a wonderfully made film. The acting, directing, the cinematography was just stellar. I mean, there's a reason they call this movie a classic. Yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Yep, I really like this one. Like you said, obviously a classic, and it's easy to see why. It has powerful universal themes, the instant drama of World War II, an all-star cast, and presented in the golden age Hollywood style. Everything is really bombastic and powerful. I love the camera moves in this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The camera moves were amazing. The set design was incredible as well. Rick's cafe actually was one of the only sets in the movie to be created from scratch, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, most of the other sets, because of World War II, because they had stopped production on a lot of creating sets and things like that. They had limited resources. Most of the other sets that you see were reused from other movies.
Oh, really?
Except for Rick's Cafe. Yeah.
Oh, I would have thought that would have just been like in the town as it was, and they just repurposed some of that as like a, as a set of the film rather than building it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, getting into the story, it starts off with Ugart, played by Peter Lorre, who is the one who gives the letters of transit to Rick for safekeeping. Now, it's implied Ugart killed 2 German couriers, but I don't remember if it's ever explicitly said. Do you guys know?
It wasn't ever explicitly said, but again, Rick knew it almost immediately.
Yeah.
One of the other black market brokers pretty much knew it immediately. Renault, the police chief, pretty much knew it immediately.
So then my question is why? Because he's also a black market transit salesman. Like, are these transit tickets so much better?
Well,
Why would he take the risk of killing people for these tickets?
Well, as he had kind of explained it, these were signed by, I guess, like a higher up official.
Look, Rick, you know what this is? Something that even you have never seen. Letters of transit signed by General Wegon cannot be rescinded, not even questioned.
Yeah, they couldn't be questioned by anybody.
Right.
Basically.
Than like the standard visas. So I think those made them a little more like less dangerous for someone to use, because then they would just be, no one would question them.
For sure. I'm just surprised he thought it was worth the risk, and as we find out, it was not worth the risk. He gets killed for it.
I mean, for him, he wanted to sell them. He wanted to, make the money off of it.
100%. But you can't use your money in the afterlife. That's all I'm saying.
He didn't seem
sure.
He didn't seem like the type of guy that would kill 2 Germans to make money.
That's why I was questioning it.
It could have been more like right place, right time. Like maybe someone he knows killed the Germans and sold it to him for like a smaller amount because he's the guy that could sell it to the right buyer.
Yeah.
Like a middleman. Maybe he was a
I'd be
middleman.
curious to hear from somebody who knows the story more intimately, what they think happened there. Getting into Rick, so he has a surface of neutrality, right? But there's a lot of things that reveal his true leanings. I don't quite remember all the details, but I know one that really stuck out to me was that he takes a German officer's check that he had used to pay for his drinks or whatever, tears it up and pays for the bill himself. Obviously not letting anybody know he's doing it, but right away there you can tell his powerful leanings. But he's for his safety and I guess his employee's safety, he's keeping an air of neutrality about him.
Well, yeah, I mean, Renault even mentions that, the reason why they've never shut his bar down or his club down is because even though they know that there's people within the bar selling these visas, these transit papers, he himself has never sold them. And I think, as you said, it's to make sure that at the very least everything's above board. Even if there's like rumor and innuendo about, illegal activities going on, like he doesn't want to endanger or imperil anybody there. To your point, he mentions frequently how neutral he is, that it was almost like a running joke for him, because I felt like every time he mentions neutrality within like a couple scenes, he shows his actual true colors there. Whether it's that example or the example of the young couple that were gambling, trying to make enough money to get the visas from Renault. There's just many times where it's like, I'm neutral. 2 scenes later, here you go. Don't say anything.
In that case, though, it wasn't necessarily against or for any side. He was just helping out 2 young people. So I guess somebody looking at that can't say definitively, you're a Nazi or you're not.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm more talking about he's put on an air of like he's aloof and elusive. Like nobody can get to him, right? Like even not nationalities, not ideas, not people. But obviously that's not the case.
And speaking on that, I love when the Third Reich, he comes and he like starts interviewing Rick, And he says, "What nationality are you?" And he's like, "I'm a drunkard."
Drunkard, yeah.
I love it.
So you're a person of the world. That's
Yes.
a national identity. One way he keeps up the guys is by setting some strict rules for himself that he applies evenly across the board, so he's not tempted to show his allegiances.
I stick my neck out for no one.
I stick my neck out for no one. He never sits down he never drinks with the patrons. That's a rule he sets for himself to avoid the temptation, right? He doesn't comp meals. He always stays sober during business hours. He doesn't want to he wants to keep his head on his shoulders there.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps a stern professionalism with everyone, which goes hand in hand with always staying sober. So it's clear this is not so much his natural state, even though he does seem a bit jaded. He's fully aware of where his allegiances lies, and he makes sure he stays safe at all times. He's not going to let anything slip.
And it's surprising. It's interesting to see like how much of a magnetism he holds to everybody at the same time, even though maybe he comes off as a bit of an asshole, right? Because he doesn't want to be around anybody. He's always, just to himself. Yet everyone's always trying to have a drink with him. Everyone's always trying to talk to him. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, he's a mysterious guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like everyone is so on the face or on face like who they are, except him. Like people have some understanding of who he is based on what he shows them.
Right.
But he's very good at like hiding under a mask.
Yeah, in this time period, in this place, allegiances are very important. So pretty much everybody else is upfront about it. They're yelling it across the bar who they're for and who they're against, while he's keeping this facade. And that facade is what draws people in because he has this mystique, this mysterious air about him. So you see rich and important people trying to get close because it's seen as, I guess, like a status symbol to get close to this guy who nobody can.
Right.
You have rich bankers, you have aristocrats, government officials trying to get close to him.
Are you saying you guys also fell in love with him, like Claude Rains, like Captain Louis Renault?
Yeah, I mean,
bit.
he's an enticing character, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting when they show some of the flashbacks to him and Ilsa in Paris, and it's trying to show him being more like happier and more in love and actually like effusive with his love, right? But even still, the actor kind of played it a little cool, a little straight, anyways. Despite that,
I noticed that as well. Like when they're driving in the car. You see him like trying to like he's like putting on a smile, but I just feel like
he's smoldering.
That's not Bogart's strength. I feel
it's not.
Do not put Bogart in one of those kind of films where he plays one of those like happy characters.
I say this in a fun way, but I have a Danny critique here, where I want to see more of that. I really want to see more of Rick and Ilsa falling in love
in the happy moments.
Yeah, I feel like I wanted that to be a quarter of the movie to make the breakup and the sadness of that more impactful.
Yeah. I agree. I do agree. That would have increased that emotional contrast and would have been more impactful in the film.
More show, less tell, for sure.
I don't know. I liked how they did it, to be honest, because to me it was more trying to understand from his perspective what happened, right? On the face, they were in love for how long in Paris?
It might have only been weeks. I don't remember. Not
right.
long.
So it's quick. Right, so it's a very quick in love out of love kind of deal, right? But for him, it was so much more impactful, and like the intention was there. It was really there, and it just fell apart so heavily, right? So I like the idea that we're coming at it from more his perspective and how he feels about it, rather than seeing more of like how it actually was. Because to me, that kind of strengthened his like at first is, I guess you could say, like his hatred for her.
Well, I do like the way that those scenes ended, where it was just like one day you're going on this train, the next day she's gone. Where I'm not saying to like to have more of that. I just wish
the abruptness of the breakup works.
That works, absolutely. We're talking about like the stage of him falling in love, and I wanted to see more of that love.
I want to feel his loss a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand. I guess what I'm saying is I didn't feel that was necessary.
Gotcha.
That's just a disagreement, yeah.
Another aspect of Rick, we mentioned how strangers and powerful people are attracted to him, but his staff love him as well.
Oh, yeah.
He definitely manifests loyalty, and it's not through power or money, but it's pretty much just treating them well.
Mutual respect.
He talks to them like regular people. He gives orders. He's the boss, but he doesn't talk down to anybody.
Yeah, they feel
Which is a
really
good distinction.
They feel really taken care of, and it's
Yeah.
not just monetary. And you
No.
see that because this owner of another club nearby called the Blue Parrot,
Mm-hmm.
he comes by to Rick's cafe and he wants to essentially buy the piano player,
Yeah.
which
I guess poach the talent, you would say.
basically, and and for those that haven't seen the movie, the piano player is black.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Rick says something about, I don't deal in human trade.
What do you want for Sam?
I don't buy or sell human beings.
Too bad that's Casablanca's leading commodity.
Right.
I don't buy and sell people. He's free to do whatever he wants. And then the owner says that he's willing to pay. I don't know, what was it?
He didn't
triple?
say, but Rick's like, say double.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they go up to him. They say, "Hey, look, come work for." Well, Rick tells him, he's like, "Hey, the owner of the Blue Parrot wants you to work for him. He'll pay you double, triple what you make here." And he goes, "No, I feel good here. I feel
Yeah.
comfortable here." So you can clearly see that it's not about money. It's about just the fact that he feels a friendship too. Like he kind of creates his friendship with the people
There's a
he works
friendship,
with.
but it is a little bit about money but not in the strict salary sense. It's about security.
Mm-hmm.
In this world, in this place where they say several times life is cheap, if the business goes under or if they need to do turnover, you're on the street, you're gone. They're not going to think about you twice. Rick is loyal to his employees. At one point, his gin bar even shuts down, and he's going to keep salary going the whole time.
That's
So
right.
he may pay his employees less, but security is important.
Absolutely.
Even when he sells the club to Ferrari, one of the other black market brokers, he tells him to keep the salary for Sam. And actually, I think he mentions like it's like almost double or 2.5 times.
No, even
actually-
more. Sam becomes like a partner pretty much. He's getting like 25. He says give Sam 25% of the.
2.5 times, yeah, because it was 10%.
Well, by the way, my agreement with Sam has always been that he gets 25% of the profits. That still goes.
I happen to know he gets 10%, but he's worth 25.
And Abdul, Carl, and Sasha, they stay with the place if I don't sell.
But was he paying Sam 10% before, or was it a salary?
That's what Ferrari was thinking that
right,
Rick was
right.
paying him. So Rick was saying, "Hey, pay him 25%." He goes, "I know you pay him 10%, but I'll give him 25 anyways."
Yeah, so imagine the piano player is getting 25% profit revenue. That's pretty big.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at every account, even with Carl, the Gaston in the club, he he knows about his dealings with the underground resistance meetings. He's like, "I don't want to know. Do it. Just be safe." That's it.
I got a question for you guys. Why can't Rick return to America? Did I miss something, or is that just left a mystery? I want to know if you have any theories.
I have the answer.
You have the real answer?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me.
The real answer is there is no answer. And
God
here's
damn you.
and yeah,
I was thinking that too,
I read
actually.
about it. They apparently the director and the writer tried very hard to think of a good reason, and they couldn't figure it out.
Mhm.
Sorry to spoil the fun.
Well, doesn't mean you can't have a theory. What would Rick have done?
What would he have done?
He's not a murderer. I don't think he would have killed anybody.
I don't think there's really a reason that he can't go back.
Oh, you think maybe that's just a story he gives?
Yeah, like a facade that he gives to make him even
But
more
even
mysterious.
officially, when the Nazis are looking at his papers, they say it like you can't go back to America. We just
Oh, you're right.
the reason's a bit vague.
It's a bit vague. They kept.
I mean,
Wow.
Imagine that's in the papers. Reason a bit vague.
technically he is a murderer. I mean, he did kill the major at the end, and
He
like
does.
he
He does.
is a resistance or rebel fighter years before he goes to Casablanca. So he
Oh,
probably-
I can see that, but I guess I didn't mean. I don't picture him like holding up a store and shooting somebody. That's what I meant.
No, I'm just trying to think. Like, if it's something very vague, what would it be? What would be written there that could be vague? It could be like certain services done for the American government.
Espionage.
That espionage that the government said, "Here's the deal. You got to do this for us, but then you got to go. Like,
Yeah.
you have to leave the country." That's the only kind of thing I can think that would be like vague on a paper.
That makes a lot of sense. Like wartime espionage,
Right.
but then you're excommunicated.
Exactly. So it would say that, but then they're like, okay, well, this is a little vague. What did you do exactly?
Mm-hmm.
I can't really picture anything else, to be honest.
That's good. I like that.
Well, I have a different theory.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about it, he mentions that he brought Sam over from America, right? That Sam has been like his compatriot since he lived in America, which at that point was like years and years prior. So I can imagine that maybe he he's engendered so much loyalty in Sam, even much more so than I think like his other employees. I think they have a closer relationship. I think in part because they've known each other for longer. I think also because maybe Rick helped Sam out in a way that would cause him to not be able to return to America. This isn't that far removed, for example, from like, slaves being emancipated, for example. And it took many, many years for African Americans to even gain a lot of rights as citizens.
So like he killed for him or something, like to protect
maybe
him?
Yeah, maybe some way, because Sam seems kind of like a southern like just the way he talked and the way he acted seemed like from some of the southern states. So I can imagine maybe there was some issue there that
I just don't know how that would be written vaguely is my only like concern.
Oh, that's true.
Unless vaguely to the Third Reich, he's not like familiar with that kind of.
What is a black man?
Well, did they have slaves in?
No, they definitely knew
Germany.
About it.
Okay, well, that was, yeah, that was a long shot guess there, but
okay.
Yeah. So again, I guess I don't know how it would be written vaguely. Is my
Gotcha.
only concern with that theory.
Sure.
So Victor Laszlo is a famous leader of some unnamed underground resistance to Nazi occupation. He's in cahoots with his wife, Ilsa Lund.
Who, by the way, is a character from Oslo, Norway, which I thought was an interesting pick.
She's a character from there?
I mean, her character,
Oh.
her background is
she's from Norway?
She's from Oslo, which, me being a big fan of like Nordic culture and all that.
I have no idea where this is going.
When I heard that, I just thought it was really interesting that they would portray a character specifically from there. I had never seen it before, especially in like an American film like this from American studio. So I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, go on.
Gotcha. So some years earlier, Victor was captured and presumed dead. Soon after this, Ilsa fell in love with Rick, but left him high and dry when they were set to leave France together. Now, she proclaims her love with Rick again towards the end, but this is only when there's 2 transport visas to gain. So let me ask the question, does she genuinely love Rick over her loyal husband, or is it a ruse? The third option, of course, is that it was a ruse, but she does fall in love with him again when Rick selflessly sacrifices his tickets to get her and her husband out of on the plane.
I think it's that one. I think it's option C because honestly, I don't know what the intention was for the writer, right? But like the way she acted it made it feel more like it was a manipulation tactic.
Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, so the reason she left Rick high and dry was because she found out her husband was alive.
Yeah.
So as soon as almost like the day she finds out, she leaves him.
She leaves.
Right. So go ahead.
I feel like when they were together in France, she was in love with him, and then she had to leave. So she always probably carried that love, but I think it was still the same deal when she was standing, holding the gun at him.
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
Why wouldn't you admit your love first before the gun threat if it was really the love?
Right. Yeah. It felt pretty manipulative.
I agree.
To me.
And I actually kind of wondered if she ever really loved Rick or if he was a surrogate for her husband, because she falls for him deeply really quickly when she finds out her husband's dead. He's the replacement, and then when her husband comes back, she's gone.
I mean, maybe in some sense he's a replacement, but emotions are high at that point. But she did just lose her husband, so I don't know that there was any like ill intent in there. So much as she's emotionally distraught, to say the least, right?
But how much time really passed from the moment the moment she thought the husband had died and when she found Rick?
They don't say, but I got the feeling
it was soon after.
Not more than a week.
I didn't really get that impression. Like my impression watching the film was it had been more, some time had passed, and it was that they made it was very vague, but it was enough time. Like, hey, they got together. They were with each other for at least several months.
He was dead, shot, trying to escape. I was lonely. I had nothing, not even hope. Then I met you.
It just felt like to me that she hadn't gotten over her husband. It was just kind of emotionally vulnerable and fell in love really quickly, heat of the moment kind of thing.
Oh, certainly.
I don't know if she was ever that in love with her husband.
Well, that's another question. I think she was.
I think it was more a decision for the world to save the world, essentially, from the Nazis and to help her husband do the work that he needs to do,
Mm-hmm.
more than for love. Because
She even mentions as such.
do you ever see passion between Laszlo and her? Not really.
Enough passion of a 10-year relationship, more than enough passion.
Yeah,
I see what
they're
you're
not
saying, though.
they're not fawning over each other.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like they are.
Comfort and all I saw was like comfort and trust. Yes.
But when they're alone, they're really intimate.
Not really intimate. They never kissed once.
They kiss a ton.
No, they don't.
Am I crazy? I thought
Every
I saw them
time
kiss a
he
bunch.
No,
leaves,
that's Rick.
every time he leaves her, he kisses her in the cheek or in the forehead. It was really not
Oh,
passionate.
my brain filled that in. I could have sworn I saw them kiss.
No, it was Rick that she kissed a lot.
Yeah,
Actually,
she kissed Laszlo 0 times the whole movie. So I was really like thrown off. Like, okay, maybe you're just with this guy. Now that you fell for Rick, you cannot feel the same way for Laszlo anymore.
Yeah, the way that
That's what she hints at that as well.
So it's like true love versus a worldly, save the world kind of view.
Well, she loves him. I guess she loves him. She's not in love with him, right?
Right.
I mean, she definitely would care if he died. Like, she deeply loves him.
No,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, the way that she describes Laszlo is that he was almost like a mentor to her, but then also someone she fell in love and was like enamored by his like mission, basically. So I think there's a love there, but also, there's, I guess, some kind of goodness in her that she sees the work that Laszlo's doing and wants to be a part of that.
It's
right?
more of like an admiration for his work. That's where the love came from, not from the individual himself.
I almost feel bad for him in that sense because I feel like he's the much better guy.
Really,
Rick is
I
great
think
in
the
some
opposite. I think
actually.
Rick and her are better together. They just work better together. They're better. They're a stronger romantic flame. I don't know. Like that passion is there. You feel it. You feel the tension. With the other two, it feels very neutral.
But there's an understanding at the end that long-term respect and love is better than the passion they have. Like, you'll regret this one day. That's the man you're supposed to be with. They both kind of admit that's the way it has to be.
True. But at the end, I think everyone deep down wants to feel that strong romance, that strong flame that could, what's that term for like?
Sure, she chooses it for
a stronger flame burns the candle faster. Right?
Sure.
I probably butchered that saying.
Hot fire make a candle go down.
Yeah.
Sean, do you have the right one?
It's like the brightest flame flickers out the fastest, something like that.
Something like that, right?
effect.
I feel like people secretly want that, even though it means more pain for them.
Sure. But, in that case, I'm happy Rick made the choice for her.
You said I was to do the thinking for both of us. Well, I've done a lot of it since then. It all adds up to one thing. You're getting on that plane with Victor where you belong. Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going. If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because I agree. She would have regretted that choice.
So don't you think, though, I have a little issue with the ending, right? Because you feel... Okay, so during the end, he decides to pretty much risk his life. He pulls out first the gun on Captain Luis Renault, who then calls Major Strasser over to stop them. And by the time Strasser gets there, they're already leaving on the plane, like the other Laszlo and Ilsa. I feel like the sacrifice was diminished.
Why?
Because he shoots Strasser, and then Captain Renault pretty much vouches for him. Is like, oh, it wasn't him. It was someone else.
I had no problem with that because I always felt like Luis was more like Rick than he let on.
I agree there, but I'm saying it diminishes the sacrifice that Rick is doing, because Rick now ultimately could go after her. It's not like now Rick's gonna go to jail or he's in trouble at all. He's fine. Like nothing happened. She just left on the plane and Rick didn't.
You have any idea what you'd have to look forward to if you stayed here? 9 chances out of 10, we'd both wind up at a concentration camp. Isn't that true, Louis?
I'm afraid Major Strasser would insist.
Well, I don't
think
know
it's more
that.
complicated than that.
Yeah, I don't think everything's fine. I mean, he has to go on the run, basically. Like they're saying, they're intimating at the end that they're gonna have to, join some like French liberation group in order to escape this, and like kind of.
Well, he said you have to lie low for a little while.
Yeah.
In some other French location, but he never said anything about joining a group. I don't remember.
Yeah, no, he did. They want to join some like French resistance or French liberation group, at the end that Louis knew about, right? And that kind of speaks to like Rick's like revolutionary past, because they kind of hint at like, he was like a rebel fighter years past. He was kind of I think like a gun runner at one point, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that in essence, the love aspect of his life is kind of over. So now he's like getting back into.
Yeah, I guess the rekindling of the love at the end also kind of rekindled his passion for revolution.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or you could say his young revolutionary heart.
Okay. You could say that. That works. So, but I just felt like there was no real sacrifice made. Like, I have to choose to let you go.
Well, he didn't know he was going to make it through this. He was risking his life, absolutely.
True.
Yeah, he could have been shot by the Major. I mean, the Major does get a shot off, but
yeah,
it just misses.
No,
him.
he is making sacrifice. I just feel like in the end of the movie, he could make it back to her now. It wasn't like a point of no return.
I see what you're saying. It is possible, but they're both doing their own important work. It's just not like, it's not easy, but it is possible.
So he's making a conscious choice to just let her go.
Exactly.
So
she could do her work and
Exactly.
he could go do what he needs to do now.
And
I think so.
And also, just for her own love life and her own sake, for her marriage too, because he mentions that to Victor as they're at the airport. He says pretty much everything that she tried to do to convince him to give up the transit papers, which includes kind of faking her like rekindled love for him, and then holding him at gunpoint and things like that. And he tells Victor this to give him comfort, knowing that Ilsa did this for the both of you, or both of them.
Right.
I think in some ways she still did love Rick, because just like the way that she looked at him as they were talking, I don't know, it seemed like a little bit regretful almost, and a little bit like thinking about what could have been. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into like the acting at that point. Also the fact that after Rick tells Victor what happened and they leave, Rick and Renault are talking, and Renault admits that Rick was probably lying about his feelings for Ilsa at that time. Like he knew everything, but it felt like he kind of got back into that love with her just for that brief moment, right? But then as you mentioned, he makes a conscious choice to decide, I want what's best for her, which I think in some essence is the ultimate love, right? It's like, even if you can't have them,
once he talks to Victor, he sees what kind of guy this is. He's like, they're better off together.
Exactly. But yeah, I get the sense that maybe she was both regretful for what happened, but then also maybe wishful thinking and wish that Rick could have joined them too in some way.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, actually, Captain Renault, he specifically says that he saw the look in her eye and he knew that she loved him, that she was in love with him, which strengthens the theory of the fact that maybe she was manipulative during the
when
she was trying to get the papers,
drawing on her past emotions.
Exactly.
But at that moment, like, her goal was to manipulate.
But at the end, her goal changed. Like her feelings changed at the end when she saw that it was the old Rick again, because she was kind of upset at him when he drunkenly kind of like pushed her away, and he was like, you.
Tell me, who was it you left me for? Was it Laszlo, or were there others in between? Or aren't you the kind that tells?
Exactly.
Yeah.
After that, I think she used that to just focus on like getting the papers and like, okay, you know what? You're not the Rick I remember.
Exactly.
But she saw the old Rick at the end and she fell in love.
Yeah, I very much appreciate the film that they had her be like a driving force in the plot and in the relationships in general. That she wasn't just an object to be desired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I imagine similar films of this ilk probably had her, that kind of role, diminished, and seen more as like the beautiful object to be chased, rather than the actual, again, driver of the plot, driver of like the conflict in some ways. So yeah, another feather in the cap of this film, so to speak.
But going back a little bit to what we were saying about Renault, he was very interesting, very dynamic character. Never exactly knew where he stood. So he was the perfect counterpoint to Rick, who has this stoic presentation. The two men really played off each other extremely well. I always enjoyed seeing them on screen.
It's in one sense it's adversarial, but in the other sense it's very giving. It's very caring in other aspects.
There's respect there.
There's a mutual respect in some cases. With that said, they do know each other, and in the case of Rick, he knows Renault in a way that maybe is a little more unsavory. And what I mean by that is, with the young couple, with the young woman in particular, Renault basically was telling her to, be able to pay for these visas, right? Knowing full well that she wouldn't be able to. A charitable read could be he turned her on to Rick so that Rick could help, because Renault knows Rick well enough that he would stick his neck out just a little bit to help out.
Is that said, though? Because I feel like she seeked out Rick all on her own.
Yeah, she did.
Well, the way it made it... I mean, how would she know, right? How would she know that Renault...
He's got a reputation.
How would Rick know... How would she know that Rick knows Renault so well? I vaguely remember that Renault had sent her to Rick, but I could be mistaken.
I don't remember that.
I would like to think that.
Yeah.
I would really like to think that, because otherwise Renault has been a scumbag the entire time.
Yeah, he was trying to break up that marriage basically and sleep with this woman.
Not break up the marriage. I mean, he was
he doesn't care what happens to their marriage.
Yeah, he just wanted one good night for the papers, pretty much.
Did we make it clear he's trying to sell transit papers for sex?
Yeah, basically
from desperate refugees.
Essentially, yeah. Yeah, it's again very unsavory. So I like to think in this case a little more charitable, that he wanted to help her but couldn't officially. So it gets Rick.
I like how tastefully they kind of show that point in the movie as well, right? They never explicitly say that, but they just give you like just enough to connect it in your head, like what's going on. So
the way she puts it is, I know what it would do to my husband. That's all you got to say.
Right.
That's all you got to say.
Well, not only that, but then Renault confronts him after and basically is like, I'm bringing a pretty blonde in here tomorrow, and she better lose. She better lose.
No,
or something to that effect.
I'd be happy if she loses.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be charitable.
He would never make any demands to Rick. Let's be honest.
True.
He's too in love with Rick to make demands like that.
Yeah, so not the most...
I saw it as both characters are putting on a guise, but Renault is much more deep into it. He's much more... he plays it much more safe with his guys. He doesn't let it fall ever.
He's like on the other side of the spectrum of Rick, and in terms of like how he handles his survival in this world, right? And it's
he's
a little
out for number one, yeah.
Exactly, and he's a little bit more, and he's more on the kiss ass kind of side of things as well, because he kind of
he doesn't have a choice in that situation.
Well,
yeah, he's an official because he could get replaced.
Yeah, he is an official, right? He is like directly under this.
If we want to be charitable, that's how I would put it. He's surviving the best way he knows how.
Yeah, but as he says, his convictions kind of flow in the wind, or blow with the wind.
Blow with the wind, yeah.
Right. So going back to your thoughts on the ending, the reason that maybe it seemed a little bit less impactful is because of his kind of character switch, seemingly, right?
He definitely goes against the wind at that point.
Yeah,
which I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing it.
No, I enjoyed that part. I did enjoy that part.
And they kind of showcase it because for a long time he's talking about this type of wine. I think it's called Vichy wine. Vichy.
It's a German wine, yeah.
Right, exactly. And he's like, I love it. And then after Ilsa and Victor leave off on the plane, and before the soldiers come to get the body, he's about to drink from the bottle, and then he looks at it and he just throws it in the trash.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that's why he did.
Yeah. I don't know if he grabs another bottle, but yeah, that's signifying like his changing allegiance, so to speak. Like he's just over it, right? And he sees like a path forward with Rick.
I like to think Renault started off like Rick and has just been in the guys for far longer and has kind of forgotten who he was.
Yeah, I get the sense he's just been biding his time. Because he seems like a true Frenchman, like through and through in many ways. So to him, I feel like he's just waiting out to see when an opportunity will strike for him to, get back in the game or get back in the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So one funny moment I remember talking about Louis Renault. So there's a part where Strasser gets upset because Strasser and his men, his German men, they're like singing their national anthem inside of this cafe. And Victor, he gets upset because obviously he's against that. And he goes to the band. He's like, play the French national anthem. And they start playing it. Mm-hmm. They really start playing it because Rick says to do it. He actually nods it. Like,
right.
It's okay, boys. Go ahead and do it. Eventually they win. The French win that song competition, basically. And Strasser tells Luis, hey, close this bar down immediately. And he's like, how do I do it? He's like, figure out a reason.
Yeah, I need a cause.
On what grounds? He's like, figure it out. So then he says, I'm closing this cafe. I can't believe there's gambling going on in the back. What the hell? And then suddenly this guy comes to him. He's like, here's your winnings, sir.
That's right.
Like, oh, thank you. Yes. Anyway, we're closing.
That was great. I laughed out loud.
That was awesome. A good moment.
That was really good. So, because the film was made during World War II, the production actually was not allowed to film at an airport after dark for security reasons. So how did they do this plane scene, you ask?
Yeah, I thought because it's black and white, but it's like the CGI of the fog coming in, I thought was like really well done.
Filmed in a hangar.
Wait, can I guess too?
Sure, go for it.
They did that thing with Be Kind Rewind where they changed like the
negative
the negative. Yeah, exactly. They did that.
No.
No. Okay.
Sorry, wrong.
I didn't go to film school. My bad.
You were closer with the hangar, but not quite. They used actually a sound stage with a small cardboard cutout airplane.
No way.
And forced perspective. And to give the illusion that the plane was full size, they used little people to portray the crew preparing the plane for takeoff.
Whoa.
And actually, the same technique was used in Alien 1979 in the
scene. It was
scene.
used in Titanic as well.
And in Titanic.
No, just guessing.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you.
They use a
Not in
boat.
Titanic.
Use a little paper boat.
Erase that.
Little paper boat. And then
Cut that shit out.
little paper boat and then a square ice cube in the back. They kind of chisel a little and they're like, ugh.
Yeah, Jack's not in the movie. That's a paper cutout.
They're just stick figures, but then they transpose the actors on it.
Good point, Danny.
Thanks. You guys
butchered
butchered my fucking trivia.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
Let me see. Let me check my notes. Well, I'll just also add that Casablanca went on to win 3 Academy Awards.
Can I guess?
No. I'm
What?
sick of your guesses.
No, hold on.
Well, let me get one.
Yeah, let's
all right, go.
Let's get
All right, I'll get the easy one out of the way. Best picture.
Mm-hmm.
Best actor, Humphrey Bogart.
Wrong.
Wait, hold on. Best digital effects.
Shut up.
Score.
Nope.
Cinematography.
Special effects.
No.
Cinematography.
Supporting.
No.
Lead actress.
No. Take your one win.
Okay.
I didn't get a win though.
All right, you get one more guess.
So it was best picture was one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, costume design.
Wrong.
Damn it.
It was best director and best adapted screenplay.
Nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's
But not best
a
picture.
pretty incredible screenplay.
It is.
Yeah.
So once again, best picture, best director, best adapted screenplay. Okay, so you guys get confused by all these guessing.
Beautiful.
I briefly mentioned it at the top. This film seems like a bit of propaganda. And I want to talk to you guys about that. So was this film made more for like Americans to show like Americans are like tough and are in the fight, so to speak? Because I think this movie was made in when? Actually, hold on.
Well, probably to inspire people to do their duty and enlist.
Yeah.
If anything, that's what they're trying to get through.
I feel like this movie was to show like what's going on in the world, pretty much. Like to show that the Germans are trying to invade everything, that they want the world.
Well, that and to imitate Humphrey Bogart and take on responsibility and do your part.
Yeah.
Not long before, maybe about a year prior, did the United States finally enter World War II. And I believe this movie was made, at least from what I see, released in early 1943. Right. So, yeah, I think it is in part like a little bit of enlistment because the main character is an American. I think the only, American role in the film. I mean, maybe there were some like side Americans besides Sam, I should say. But yeah, it's trying to show like, hey, America's here, because like the movie ends with them getting in the fight.
It's like America's the deciding factor of victory.
I mean, in some ways, yeah. I mean, Rick is like the driver of all the conflict and like the resolution in the film, basically.
Honestly, I hardly even considered it though. Like the artistic merit of this movie supersedes any messages it's giving by a large margin for me. Like it's just such a great film. Obviously,
true. Yeah, absolutely. Like it stands on its own without thinking of that kind of message. But I can imagine people watching it back when it first came out with the threat of war looming over you, right? It would maybe give a different impression to people.
Sure, but again, I think it speaks to what you're saying. It's about enlistment. It's about getting America more riled up, so to speak, for the war. Because at that point, Pearl Harbor had happened about a year and change since. So I imagine maybe people are starting to wane on their like, not involvement with the war, but their patriotism towards like fighting the war. So I guess there's like a way to kind of reignite that, so to speak. I
think my point was that I lean towards it not being looked at as propaganda at the time. I think that comes more from retrospectively looking at it, and obviously the time period it released in. All right, boys, be ready for scores?
Let's do it.
All right, I believe Sean starts first.
Yes.
I give it a 9 out of 10. I love the film. There's a reason this film is hailed as a classic. To me, it's incredibly engaging and endlessly cool. And it showcases how like a simple premise, in this case a love story, can be expanded and made into such an engaging and wonderful tale, right? Everything from the acting to the directing, the cinematography, and more are just exemplary. And to me, the central story is amongst the best that I think, or one of the best that we've watched so far, despite its inherent simplicity. So 9 out of 10 for me.
All right, I'm going 9.5 out of 10. A timeless story wrapped up in the most dramatic setting we'll hopefully ever see. It succeeds by telling a large story through the lens of intimate and dynamic relationships, something that too many historical films fail to do. What about you, Dano?
I give it a 9 out of 10. And I couldn't say it. I couldn't have said it better than the both of you. Overall, a fantastic film. A very cool, magnetic main character, and the setting was just like really awesome to see. I kind of wish I was at that cafe sometimes, smoking a cigarette, looking cool.
So cool.
The love story was great, and I love how it unraveled and slowly revealed the truth of why she left Rick initially. So I thought that was really well written out and crafted, and all the characters were really well written. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
Dope.
And with that, join us next week for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind 2004, directed by Michel Gondry.
My name is Joel Barish, and I'm here to erase Clementine Krasinski.
There's an emotional core to each of our memories, and when you eradicate that core, it starts its degradation process.
You ever wish you could erase those horrible, mind-bending, heart-wrenching memories of your past breakups that keep you up all night and haunt your dreams? Well, now you could see what that process is like. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You could stream it on Amazon Prime or rent it through Apple TV or Vudu. Sean, where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, give us a rating and a review. It really goes a long way towards building the podcast. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, hit like, click subscribe, and hit that little notify bell so you're made aware when new episodes drop every week. And with that, guys, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. And with that, we bid you adieu.
Farewell.
Long live the new flesh.